subscribe and share. Please turn off the ad block, subscribe, and share. Links will be below for anyone wanting to support this channel.
Hello, my name is Craig Bennett, and I'm the founder and owner of TechViewsNope. And today we are taking a look at and reviewing Multiplicity. Now, as far as this goes, I am using the highest end version, and I've been using this for a while now. I don't really know when I first got it, but it was a while ago. It was a real while ago. In fact, I used the original version when it was at startup. Now it's at Edge Runner for whatever reason. I'll have a link to where you can get this in the description, by the way. So as far as this goes, what is Multiplicity? Multiplicity is simply a KVM software. Now, depending on what version you get, it's depending on what you can do, but I highly advise just going with the highest end version. So, and you can see the differences here. So as far as the Multiplicity, or what is a KVM, let's get into that real quick, because maybe you probably be asking yourself this. A KVM in a nutshell is basically a way to control multiple computers with one keyboard, one mouse, and most of the time with one monitor. And this is found regularly in schools and many other places like that. You probably find it in businesses too, but mostly you'll find it in classrooms, especially in colleges. And that way, if the teacher wants to show everybody something, they can actually take control, show stuff on their screen. You won't be able to do that with this, but if you want to take control of someone's computer, you could do that. Now, this is not made for a school atmosphere, this is made for a home, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, with this in mind, you can control a computer with or without a monitor it's on. The computer that we're going to be controlling today is the home server we set up a while back, and this doesn't have a monitor on it. The only monitor and keyboard and mouse I have hooked up is on the primary, which is what I'm obviously recording with right now. So that's a big one to keep in mind. So you don't need anything hooked up to the computer itself that you're controlling. But there is options if it does have something. So, I mean like a laptop or something like that. But the one thing to keep in mind is the software has to be downloaded onto both the primary and the secondary or secondaries, so there could be multiple of them as seen with this. So let's jump on in, and as I said, we are working with 3.2. there's the build number. So let's go into the first major feature. The first major feature is, and I don't use this one, I used to when I had a laptop, and I found use when I did have a laptop into this. I'm probably going to get a laptop soon, so I probably won't get that again. But with this, basically you can actually go and if you have a monitor on every computer and it's side by side of your regular computers for whatever reason, or let's say again like you have a laptop. So for example, I have an L-shaped desk. I have two monitors for my primary, and right next to it I used to have a laptop to one of my monitors, and this basically allowed me to use that laptop as a third monitor and as an entire thing itself. So this is pretty neat. So basically, when I had that laptop, basically I had the two monitors. This would be the primary, the second monitor, and the laptop would sit over here on the right side. Again, it's an L-shaped desk. So with this, when I had the laptop, I was able to actually use one mouse, one keyboard. Obviously, the laptop had to be on and everything and connected to the same network. But I can actually go to the far left, and in my keyboard and mouse would automatically start controlling the laptop itself. With configurations, I can have all the sounds that the laptop would have played go through the network through to this computer that I'm on right now. So instead of having multiple speakers, instead of having multiple headphones, where I wear all headphones for my sound because I don't really see a point of having speakers and disturbing anyone else, I can actually have all the sound just go through my primary, and that way anything, say for example if the laptop had an alert that came up, I can hear it through my headphones instead of having sounds coming from my laptop itself and then my computer and all the other stuff individually. So with that, you basically are able to control multiple computers and stuff that have monitors of them on. Again, you don't need a monitor for the software. I'll show you that in a second. But theoretically, you can actually say the monitor is up to the corner, above, below, wherever. Now, removing it is pretty easily. It's that simple. If you want to add a computer, the one thing to keep in mind is you can add a computer name, and you can any computer that is detected on the network will show here, and you can actually edit it. Say this computer will have this MAC address and will only be on this IP address. If it's on anything else, don't look at it, and that's the security reasons. So with this, now of course that might not be like a big deal for most people like myself, but for some that lives in apartments and stuff like that could be a bigger deal, especially when you get into who knows is in the next room. So let's go into the audio. So the audio section, you can see here, it actually it says if your computers are set up right, you can enable audio sharing. So I can actually, from the primary, send audio to the secondary, or send the audio from the secondary to the primary, as I was talking about earlier. And this is a very important thing in itself. Now, one thing that is very, very important with this is if your Wi-Fi, not internet, because this doesn't go out to the internet. This goes before it goes out to the internet, so don't worry about data. But the Wi-Fi itself, if the Wi-Fi itself is not that good, extremely congestive, or the devices, one or both of the devices are very far away from the Wi-Fi, so it doesn't have good strength, then this is going to result in a few problems, especially when you get into video streaming, because the audio won't be synced up right. You'll run some other problems, so that's a big thing to keep in mind. If you want to store all your videos on one system, it is possible to copy and paste files over the network. So say for example, if I had it set up like this, or the KVM itself, I can actually go and copy and paste files from one computer to the next through this. Now, that's very, very important, because if you do want to watch videos and it's stored on a given system and it does have a bad network, yes, you would have to download it onto your next computer, and yes, it would take a long, long time, but that's pretty much about it. However, if the Wi-Fi is great and all the other problems are not there, you can actually stream and you can see it as if you're looking at the thing right there. So that's pretty important. Now, as far as hotkeys, you can deal with hotkeys right there. I'm not really going to deal with that. Settings, you can see. Now, as far as this, some of these settings will become more relevant depending on what exactly you're going to do. So say for example, if I have the laptop, when I had that up and running, because your mouse will still be on the edge wherever the what side that you want to play with, it will look like your mouse is just over here. So if you saw that for a split second, you're like, oh, my mouse is controlling my primary or secondary, depending on the thing. And the thing with that is you can actually tell it to darken it up, and that way you automatically know at a glimpse that, oh, it's not controlling it. Let's move the mouse back. And that helps you out. But for the most part, I mean, it's up to you on these settings and stuff. Now, as far as the encryption, the one thing to note with that is the encryption part of it is it will slow down your connection. So again, if you're going for speed as far as watching videos, I wouldn't suggest playing games unless it's something like solitary. But if you're going for speed as far as videos, trying to make sure the audio and video is synced or something around to that, you need a low encryption because it can create lag, especially if the thing's already congested by itself. Now, with the control and switching the between the stations, I would highly advise, if you're doing the seamless, to do the corners, and that way, if perhaps you are working on something, you don't accidentally go back and forth. That was one of the problems I've had, and a way to really fix that is to have it where it requires you to hold down the shift key, because you virtually would never do that unless you're actually meaning to. And the reason why that could be a problem for some people is if you're on Windows 7 or beyond, you can actually take a screen, given that it can go full screen, and do that measure, and it will actually take up that half of the screen. And again, it has to be able to go to full screen. But holding down a shift key solves that, because if you want to do that, then it'll say, oh, you want to control the next computer, and it will move it across. But if you have it where you have to hold down the shift key or some of these others, then it'll say, oh, the shift key is not held down, therefore you don't want to move to the other computer, and there's something else going on. So it'll just ignore it. So let's go into the next one, KVM. This KVM is for the network portion of it. Again, you don't have to have a monitor. For this case, you don't have to have a monitor hooked up to anything on here. And that's very, very important, because where this, it doesn't have a monitor at all. It doesn't have a keyboard. It does not have a mouse hooked up to it. I showed you guys how to make that a while back with the home server, like how to make a old Windows computer into a home server. And it's just still up, still stable, still running. Now, as far as a lot of these features, I would really not mess too much with this, not because it'll break anything. It's simply because the most of these features, if you're messing with a KVM, like say for example, the background on the home server is black, and it doesn't have any of this stuff, which is rain meter, by the way. So I know what I'm controlling. Obviously, if the background on every single one of them is the same, maybe having it where it auto darkens and stuff like that, it might be worthwhile. Alright, so as far as that goes, let's go into there. And in fact, here's the example. So if you hit one of the sides, you can actually see it takes up that. Whereas, sorry about that, the I spy was up and all my cameras are up and running. I forgot about after every so often my stuff does a previous setting from like 2 videos back. But anyways, with that being said, you can also do that. So that's the reason why you want to do the shift thing. So with that, you may notice the resolution's off, and again, there's no monitor hooked up to the computer, and that's very, very important, because there's no monitor. There is very little I can do with the resolution. What I could do is I can hook up a quote-unquote fake monitor. Basically, if you got a DVI port, maybe hook up something from a DVI to VGA. Nothing even really has to be plugged into it, and thinks it has a monitor hooked up to it. But for the most part, you will run into an issue like this. So like here, I could do one of these, but for the most part, I would never get to the 1920 by 1080 and so on. Let's see if that looks a little bit better. Yeah, it does. And as you see here, now we fixed the stuff, but for the most part, again, we never get to the 1920 by 1080 unless I'm missing something. But anyways, yeah, this is the actual thing. So basically, this full thing is the actual desktop on the other side. The one thing to keep in mind though is your toolbar on the bottom, it will try to come up if this is full screen in window mode. So the two ways to fix that is by making this an absolute full screen, or by taking off full screen in the window mode, and there you go. The important thing to note is even if it is in the complete full screen, your toolbar may still come up in the background. You won't be able to see it, but you will still be able to select items. I've had that problem. So you may open up programs without even wanting them, and that could be a problem in itself. Now, as far as this goes, this is pretty much it as far as the thing. It's literally, let's open up a notepad to show you my keyboard works. And as you see here, it works. So yeah. But anyways, as far as things goes, that's pretty much about it. Again, if you do have a security system hooked up to this given thing, then it will slow it down massively. So say for example, whenever I work on my security system, I have to actually turn off all the cameras if all possible, and that way it will allow me to work without problem. It's not that it will stop all entirely, it's just that because the computers, specifically the secondary, is getting information back and forth from the cameras, and then it's trying to do your thing on top of it, it will slow down the actual connection. And you will even notice this whenever you're doing a seamless, even if that secondary computer it doesn't have any security camera or anything like that on it, if the network is congestive, it will create a little bit of lag. It's not enough to create a huge amount of problem, but it is enough to be noticeable in itself. So that's pretty important to note in itself. Now, one thing I would advise is if you are going to make a home server, then do this, because you don't have to have the actual monitoring, more keyboards, anything like that. This includes an actual real server, or one that you made like I did, where I actually converted obviously a Windows computer into a server. And I have tested this in Server 2012, but it works, but it's very finicky. Server 2012 is already finicky in itself. So someone who actually knows what they're doing may be able to work around this and actually get it working more so than I ever did. But Server 2012, I kept running into problems, not with Multiplicity, but with actually iSpy getting that thing to be stable. But what you're seeing here is actually Windows 8. So if we go to the start, you'll see that. So there you go. But anyways, as far as things goes, this has been Craig Bennett, founder of TechViews Nope, And one thing I forgot to mention is this. If it's full screen, what this one does is it basically allows you to switch between things. And if you're in full screen, how to get out of that is hold down Shift, and I think it's this one, and it allows you to get out. In fact, if you hover over it, it will tell you the command, and that way you can get out full screen and get back to window mode. But as far as things goes, if you do have any questions, then feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. And feel free to let me know what you think about Multiplicity if you do have a chance to pick it up and play with it. Now, if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe, share. If you don't like it, then feel free to leave a dislike, but tell me why so I can fix it in future videos. Again, this has been Craig Bennett, founder of Tech Views Nope, and I hope you have a great day.